Shabbat Shalom. Oh, it's very quiet. Let's start again. Shabbat Shalom. That's better. Shabbat Bo, go or come. So the reading for this parasha, the full Torah reading, comes from the book of Exodus 10, 1 to 13, and ends on chapter 16. The half-Torah reading comes from the prophet Jeremiah 46, 13 to 28. And the reading from Messianic writings came from book of Luke 4, 14 to 22. It's very exciting, reading about, this parasha, because the way I look at it is, I sort of split it into a trilogy. We start, last week was the first part of the trilogy. And I think with highly confidence I can say this is one of part of the Torah that is known by the majority, I'll say a really high percentage of people in the world. Whether you are Jewish, not Jewish, believer, not believer. And reason behind it, there have been lots of films made about the 10 plagues. So last week we start, as I mentioned, the first part of the trilogy. I can imagine how it has been, these dramatic events, full of action and drama and suspense, river turning into blood, frogs all over the place, lies and flies pestering people. And so on. Then come the suspense. Right, what's next? What's going to happen? Then the next plague comes to fruition. And after the 8th plague becomes the end of this blockbuster, the action and so on, which is the parasha Vayera, which we heard about last week. With a big announcement, Parting 2 coming soon, packed with even more drama, action, and suspense. Watch this space. And Parasha Bo is that Part 2, which details the last 3 plagues of the 10. God sent the 8th and the 9th plagues, locusts, darkness. However, Pharaoh still refused to let the people of Israel go. God tells Moshe that the 10th plague will be, the killer, will be the one that will convince Pharaoh to let the people go. The 10th will be the killing of all firstborn of Egyptians. And he commands Israelites' homes to slaughter lamb and spread the blood on their doorposts in order to protect their firstborns. And after the death of the firstborn, Pharaoh will finally demand that the Israelites must leave the land of Egypt. And the long exile will end, and the Israelites will begin their journey to freedom. Now, leaving aside all the drama, action, and suspense after the 8th and the 9th plague, something very, I'll say, strange, bizarre, out of order happened, but yet very, very important, which has set the start of the story of our identity. God has commanded Moshe to speak to Israelites, assemble them, bring them together, talk to them. But the strange thing is, talk to them not what is to come, what they need to do. Now, again, it's kind of a bit of a challenge. Imagine you're a leader, right? You've been told to talk to a bunch of people that has been oppressed in slavery for centuries. After a series of miracles and all the plagues, when they think they were just about to go, that is the one, the first one happened. Oh, we are free. No, we're not. The second one, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th. Now you stand in front of those people that their hope was, we should be gone by the first one. We're still here. And some people doubted, perhaps I would, maybe, will ever be freed. Now, you as a leader, you stand in front of them, look, all those faces, some, sad and crying, and some, thereabouts, not here, not there. And you need to tell them something. You need to talk about something. Where will you start? What do you talk about? Most people say, well, we went through 9 plagues. The core, the reason, the goal is to be freed. Talk about freedom. Talk about the destination ahead. The land flowing with milk and honey. In a more realistic or pessimistic way, one can say, talk about the challenge, the danger that will come ahead, through this journey to freedom. All the experience you'll have, the highs and the lows. Doesn't sound like a perfect speech, if you have to motivate, encourage people that has been down for a long time. It's a speech that perhaps will be an overdue. That's what they want to hear. The future is bright. Everything from now on will be better. But guess what? Moshe didn't do that. Moshe did not talk of these things. He didn't talk about freedom. He didn't talk about the land flowing milk and honey. He didn't even mention about the promised land itself. He didn't mention about what they're going to go through in the desert. What they need to build when they're free, the empires, the building, and, army and so on. No, he didn't talk about it. He didn't even mention, you're going to be free, you need to be responsible, you need to... No, he didn't know at all. I mean, if we judge his speech on, the current standards, it will be as a failure. Can you imagine a nation that is collapsing, economy collapsing, war and so on, and you stand up, don't talk about the brighter future to come? Potentially you might be stunned because people will be, what's the point? We're suffering and you're not telling us what we want to hear. But what Moshe has done, not 1, not 2, but 3 times, he'll vaguely talk about the same theme. Children, teach them. Kind of that distant future. Parents, what they need to do, what they need, that engagement, teach their children, and so on. When he speaks about questions that the children might ask, when the miracles, events are about to come, this is what he's talking about. And he kind of, no, I don't want to hear about that. I just want to tell me what's going to happen next. But no. As a vision leader, Moshe knew exactly that one cannot change the world, but just telling we're going to build a big army. The future is bright. We are going to force that freedom into people, because we know how many empires have come and gone, and while everything, condition of the people remains exactly the same. And not just that, no. Moshe knew there was a massive empire, literally the wheels coming off of it. And all the promise that, potentially as a leader you'll, promise will never come to fruition. Because Moshe knew the freedom is not just a matter of winning, political or military victories or strength. It involves that habits. It's that constant ticking. So we focused. And he knew unless we teach our children about what happened today, what is about to happen, all these miracles that is about to happen, things that we've seen so far, they will not understand how all the Judean structure works, all the laws and commandments. They will not understand that to create a society of free individuals serving the true living God, and at the same time be reminded that freedom is not a matter of just words. Again, to ensure that my freedom doesn't start or end in detriment of other people's freedom, because this is not the freedom of the Torah. This is not the freedom of the living God. Through God, what Moshe was saying, what was doing, is telling the people that the real challenge, that is not just about being free from Egypt. It's about keeping it. Keep that spirit of being free alive in the hearts of the generations, the next generation and the generations to come. And in order to keep that, there's no any other way but to tell about it, tell the story, repeating the story over and over again from generation to generation. We know what happened. If we forget about it, it will happen again. And that is what happens. There's wars. Let's go back, just a little bit of history. First World War, it came and ended. There's lots of promise, lots of things that we decide, well, let's put in place. We organize this. But guess what? We forgot about it. A few years later, war happened again. Because it's our memory. We tend to forget things very quickly, unless we talk about it day in, day out. And Moshe was very, very, he knew the insight that talking about the events of Egypt is not something that we could perhaps just, it's fine, let's send the kids to a school and the teacher will teach them, what happened there. It's about reliving these miracles. And there are things that needs to happen. He knew between parents, it's not that passive learning, that active learning from parents to children, from community, that interaction. And Moshe has seen this very, very clear, more than anyone. And through this is what we are today. This is what made Judaism surviving. It's that conversation, that generational teaching. And perhaps that's the very reason that Moshe has repeated it not once, not twice, but 3 times. The needs to pass that baton to the next generation. As we can read on, I'll just read this through verse 12, 25 to 27. When you come to the land which Adonai will give you, as he has promised, you are to observe this ceremony. When your children ask, what do you mean by this ceremony? Say, it is the sacrifice of Adonai, Pesach, Passover, because Adonai passed over the houses of the people of Israel in Egypt when he killed the Egyptians, but spared our houses. The people of Israel bowed their heads and worshipped. 13:8, on that day you are to tell your son, it's because what Adonai did for me when I left Egypt. And then while I was reading through, there's something very critical here, because Moshe didn't say what Adonai did for you, it's for me. And when we did it, it did for me, it did for you. And moving on to 13:14. When at some future time your son asks you, what is this? Then say to him, with a strong hand of Adonai, Adonai brought us out of Egypt, out of a port of slavery. I suppose the question is, why is this important? As I mentioned earlier, you just want to go, don't you? You've been suffering for centuries. Tell us what's to come when we're there in a safe place. But no, this happened before the 10th plague, before Pharaoh said, go, don't want you here. It feels out of context, but at the same time, it's feel at the right place to talk people about it. Because freedom is a work of a nation, and any nation needs identity. And to have identity, you need memory. And memory is about things you hear, you're taught. Because, my question is, what is your identity if you don't remember who you are? If you don't know what you are? Okay, without this teaching, telling stories, there's no memory. And Bible says, no memory, no identity. And the powerful link between generation is that identity that keeps passing on from one generation to the next. But put all this drama and action suspense aside and the back and forth, Moshe to Pharaoh, Pharaoh to Moshe. The core message of these events has become the seeds that has led what our identity is today. Is on that very precise moment, just before the 10th plague, that seed has been planted. And very much, this is what you're going to do. The very first festival is being given on that place, the Passover. That is what you need to do forever. And what is to come is what basically has, outside set what we know these days, a modern democratic society. Our Jewish identity is built upon stories, traditions that has been passing over, as I mentioned, generation to generation to this day. And it's the teaching, the thought of the struggles and battles, the ups and downs, the Passover through the wilderness that the Jewish law, commandment, festival were given to us. And all this started just before they left the land. Not after, before. And even to this day, we are encouraged diligently to love Adonai our God with all our hearts, all our being, and all our resource. And what comes next? Teach them carefully to your children. You have to talk about them when they sit at your home, when you are traveling on the roads, and when you lay down, and when you get up. And all interlinked. The reason behind it is, as soon that chain is broken, from generation to generation, we will forget what happened. And guess what? We go back to square one. The freedom from the slavery, it started a new chapter in the wilderness. It's once we pass over, we cross over to the promised land, not to the promise, to the wilderness, is where literally all the Torah was given. Not going through the third part of the theology, but that link, that relation. It started in Egypt, and when we cross, and we cross to the wilderness, where most of the things has to follow the commandments, all the mitzvot, all the laws and commandments were given to us, which not just to benefits of Judaism, but most of these laws and commandments has been embedded on most of, let's say, Western or democratic society. I mean, all across the world. I mean, one example, very, very known, thou shalt not kill. This is not something that man made, that, it's crime to kill someone. It's Torah. When you look at all social governance, benefits and helping, trying manly help the poor and so on, this is not something this is not man-made. This is what taught from the beginning. That is freedom, part of freedom. You look after the person next to you. And all these rules and regulation we know from, democratic or Western country is nothing man-made. It's Torah, which started, that seed was planted in the land of Egypt and flourished when we move into wilderness. Just leaving you with the thoughts that if you know your own story, the story that has been told from generation to generation, you should see it as a gift. Because when you know who you are and why, with faith and hope, you can navigate the wilderness of time with courage and confidence. Because if God is with you, who can be against you? Shabbat Shalom.